Married couples who sleep in separate rooms. Why do you do this? My wife has manuscript. One of the primary issues she has is vertigo when I'm in the bed with her. The motion of my breathing / heartbeat / movement really fucks with her vertigo while she sleeps. Also, I snore, so an isolated coil mattress wouldn't quite do it. They aren't total isolation either. You feel movement, or two beds in one room. Also, honestly, it spices up the sex life, adds an element of pursuit and some illicit atmosphere to it. We're sneaking around the house to each other's beds to bang. We blended two households. His bedroom was fully furnished, and the furniture and closet were full. It made sense for my stuff to go in a different bedroom. We started out sleeping in one room or the other, but I realized pretty quickly that if I ever wanted to get a full night's sleep, it wasn't going to be in the same bed with him. I've been known to call him a sweating, snoring, slant sleeping son of a bitch after a night of his sweating, snoring, and slant sleeping. We do a your place or mine thing for non-sleeping activities, but for when it's sleepy time. Assuming you're in the States, look into the AU Pair in America program. You'll be surprised how reasonable childcare can be. I was an AU pair in the mid-90s. I'm British and was 18 at the time. I got to live with an American family for a year, watch their 3 kids, do the grocery shopping, take the kids to school and activities, do their laundry, and a bit of light housekeeping. They had a cleaner. In return I got free room and board, the use of a car, and got to spend a year hanging out in the States, traveling, meeting new people and partying. Thank you fake ID. I got paid $100 a week pocket money, and they got 45 hours of childcare a week. Great experience all round, and we are still in touch 20 or so years later. My wife and I usually work opposite days off to watch the kid. We both work nights so it's tough. When I'm working, she'll watch him and sleep in the nursery or the other room. When she's working, I'll watch him and stay in the other room. Luckily my wife works 3 days a week, usually, and I can drop him off with my parents 1 day out of the week. Her aunt is staying with us for a few months, and it helps a lot. When her aunt leaves it's gonna suck again. The kid will be a year and a half soon, and he just likes being terrible most of the time, especially when I get home after a 12-hour day and just want to sleep. I'm really considering getting a full-time nanny, but godmom, are they expensive? Lol. I do this. I'm an absolute terrible person to share a bed with. I snore like a passing semi-truck and apparently, I'm told, flail wildly in my sleep. When we first got married I kept waking up to an empty bed. She would join me for an hour until I was asleep, then retreat to the couch. After a week or two I got fed up and just went to the couch first. Then started several months of us trading off for the couch. Eventually I just went and bought a twin mattress and tossed it in the office. That became my bed. And when we got a bigger house, I just set up in a separate room. Have you been checked for sleep apnea? A lot of people don't realize they have it or how bad it's gotten until they get hooked up to a CPAP for the first time in a sleep study. My parents slept in separate beds, as did my great-grandparents. For my great-grandparents it was a comfort thing. Grandma didn't like not being able to move around the bed at will. She and grandpa loved each other dearly, and she passed not long after he did because she missed him so much. For my parents it was a couple things. As my dad aged his sleep cycle went weird. He would be able to sleep a couple hours and then be up half the night and fall asleep again about the time my mom was getting up for work. Also my mom has sleep apnea and uses a CPAP. It made hella noise back then. Dad was half deaf and the sound still bothered him. Out of respect for each other they decided it was better to have separate bedrooms. This makes me feel better about my husband and I not sharing a bed. Haha. Some people act like that means your marriage is falling apart. Honestly it helps us love each other more because I'm not up multiple times a night with his tossing and turning, and he's not up all night listening to my snoring. During the summer I moved to another room we call the wind tunnel. Basically I have a ceiling fan going almost 24/7 and a window fan above the bed I run from 7 PM to 8 AM. She has allergies and easily gets runny nose and sneezes from any moving hair. my body temp will skyrocket, and I'll sweat like crazy in a room devoid of moving air. So she sleeps in a stuffy no air movement master bedroom, and I sleep soundly in the wind tunnel. During the winter I move back, cause then I become the ultimate body warmer for her. I know an older couple that have separate rooms. From what I can tell, they are very much in love, and very clearly and openly affectionate with each other. Apparently her snoring is next level, like, their dog starts barking if he's nearby. Girlfriend's parents do this. They both snore, and do it to get away from each other snoring. I didn't think it was that bad, until they talked about having to sleep in the same bed during their trip in Europe. They were at each other's throats, because if one fell asleep, the other couldn't. My grandparents do this. My grandfather built a small apartment on the second floor of their house. They do it because they have different sleep schedules, and in general they spend much of the day apart because they like it that way. But they always eat lunch and dinner together, and my grandfather loves to listen to her soft footsteps throughout the day. He calls her the woman next door. It's really cute. Edit, a word. Sleep cycles and she violently tosses around. I've been asked by my commander if I got into a fight when I showed up to duty with a black eye. Gosh, I got up one morning then came back to bed and didn't know my BF had curled up and was laying on my pillow. Elbowed him in the nose super hard. It was dark and I'm blind. It didn't break his nose, but it bled a lot. I still feel bad about it. Now I very gently pat around everywhere before I crawl in bed. A few months later he elbowed me hard in the forehead on accident. XD didn't hurt at all but did startle me, haha. Not separate rooms, but a king bed and separate blankets. We sleep way better. I'm a notorious blanket hog and he's always hot when he sleeps. Then we can be close when we want to and separate when we need a good sleep. My husband and I have used separate blankets since right after he first moved in when we were dating. For the same reasons. I'm a blanket hog and love a thick comforter. He can make do with just a thin sheet. My stepmother's parents took this to a new level. He built a second house next door. They lived next to each other for 20 years before they both passed in a short amount of time. It seemed very odd to me, but it worked for them. At least from an outside perspective. I know images never reflect reality. Not exactly the same, but I had a great aunt and uncle who had some kind of huge disagreement early in their marriage and never spoke to each other again. Even though they lived together, they slept in different rooms, and he spent most of his time at home in his garden. She took care of the house, cooked his meals, did his laundry, etc. etc. He went to work and paid the bills. At family gatherings the men would hang out with the husband in one room and the women with the wife in another. They remained married that way the rest of their lives. When he died she was apparently utterly devastated. This is sort of my dream. I love my husband fiercely, but he is a big ass slob and refuses to clean. It is really the only source of tension between us, because I refuse to act like his mother by picking up after him and cleaning up his messes. If he could live in his own house, that would be great. He can hang out with me in my place, and we can have sleepovers and all that, but living with him is not a thing I particularly love. Can he pay for a cleaner from his mad money budget? We are both 41, been married 23 years and sleep in different beds. First half of our marriage we always slept in the same bed. Of course there was the occasional crying kid who wanted mommy to sleep with them, or falling asleep on the couch or somewhere else. About 10 years ago I spent a year working a midnight shift, so I started sleep on our spare bed in the basement. We both realized we had much better sleep separate in our own beds. After I went back to a day shift we went back to sleeping in the same bed and soon realized sleeping apart was more restful. Over time we bought 2 full-size beds and put them in our bedroom, like the old TV shows. It's been great. Edit. So a lot of comments about intimacy. Yeah, we have 6. I'd say every bit as much as we ever did in the past. We've been married over half our life, so we are really good at knowing when fun time is going to happen. Sometimes we sleep in the same bed. There is no rules we have to sleep separately all the time. Our beds are about a foot apart and sometimes we slide them together, especially when the kids were younger, and they'd end up in our room, along with the dog. Edit 2. Yes, we got married at 18. We went to prom together, and girlfriend somehow got pregnant after prom, when we stopped for soda. So we got married. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you would like to see more, feel free to subscribe.